Welcome to Ballot Battleground, Nevada. I'm your host, Ben Margiott, a reporter at KRNV News 4 in Reno. I'm passionate about making politics in this critical battleground state more digestible to the average voter and pushing past the talking points to press politicians for answers. On this show, we take deep dives into the people, ideas, and debates shaping Silver State politics. It's mail time yet again at the Ballot Battleground Nevada studio. Earlier this week, we put out the call for listener questions all over social media, and you guys came through. By the way, a special shout out to our Redditors. You all submitted some really interesting ones. Our morning show anchor, Chris Murphy, joins me once again, and we did our best to get to as many of your questions as we could, ranging from tax reform and John Doe to open primaries and the cost of a special session of the Nevada legislature. Plus, is cereal soup? And why does Chris keep a cat that he's severely allergic to? We get into all of it. This is such a fun episode format. I always have a blast answering your questions. So without further ado, let's dig into the mailbag. All right, you see them all over our airwaves. Morning show anchor Chris Murphy joining us on Ballot Battleground Nevada. Once again, Chris, it is such a pleasure to have you. How sleep deprived are you this week with your Dodgers? I guess we could call them your Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, and this has been a lot of fun.
But you also kind of root for the Phillies.
Yeah, I lived in Philadelphia. So for football, I'm Eagles.
Yeah.
Because as a kid in Los Angeles, we didn't have a team. Like the Rams left for St. Louis for a while. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then the Raiders were in town for a hot minute. But we didn't really have a team. It was the weirdest thing. Los Angeles, such a huge media market, number 2 media market behind New York, without a football team.
Right, yeah.
And then for baseball, grew up going to Dodger Stadium as a kid and everything else. So that 18-inning game, I went to bed, Ben, about the 8th inning. It was,
oh, really? Okay.
Shohei had just hit the home run to tie it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get up in the morning and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't wait through another
10 innings.
10 innings.
Yeah.
That game
was crazy. 2 full baseball games, like 6 hours and 40 minutes, I think. Yeah.
So,
it was too long.
So I get up
and I'm a fan of the late games where it's like instant classic. 18 is just too long. Because you, me, my wife, we were all asleep.
Yeah.
And I imagine, and we're on the West Coast. Can you imagine people watching?
New York. So it got over at like 3 a.m. for them.
Yeah.
So good to be here. And this series has been a lot of fun. And Shohei's incredible.
Yeah.
Haven't been on Ballot Battleground Nevada for a while. So we haven't done the mailbag for a while. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing this. We got a bunch of questions, as I mentioned in the intro, a lot from Reddit. So, again, shout out to our Redditors because they always come through with thought-provoking questions that make me do a little research, and it should be good. Yeah, I think we did one of these back in April or May, but it's been a while.
So I love the flavor of it because some are just silly, and then others are really in depth.
Yeah,
and they hold their politicians' feet to the fire. So should we jump in?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is from Appropriate Path on Reddit, and this person writes 2 issues, and they have a federal and state question here, and it says, "What are the options candidates want to propose to balance the state budget? Increases in taxes, cut spending, or increase revenue through other means?"
Yeah, no, let's take this in, as they put in there 3 parts. And really, the background and the context of all this is Nevada's budget. We're running into budget issues every single session. We've talked about it, in segments on our morning show arc where there's just not enough money to go around, and revenues actually kind of went down this year. We've had kind of the tourism fall off a little bit. And so we entered the session this year with a big shortfall. So what are the options to kind of balance the state budget or increase revenue? So the hot topic, increasing taxes, Chris. That's always politically palatable, and voters jump at that opportunity, right?
So in this case, it would be what, sales tax, property tax, because we don't have the state income tax.
Right, yeah, and I looked that up. I actually didn't know it was a 1990 personal income tax prohibition initiative. It's in the state constitution, so it would actually take 2 votes of the people to overturn the prohibition on a state income tax, and I haven't seen anyone making a organized effort to do that. So let's kind of rule out, cross off state income tax. Second one down the line would be reforming property taxes. We did a whole sweeps piece, lengthy report talking to Natha Anderson, a Democratic lawmaker who is supporting property tax reform that kind of made it halfway through the legislature, passed in the Assembly, and died in the Senate. That too would take 2 votes of the people. So that's like a several years down the line fix. And I don't know if we want to get into the exact nitty-gritty of how that would work, but it would kind of just restructure Nevada's property tax system. And that one seems kind of unlikely at this point.
Look, it's my sense here in Nevada that no one wants to pay anything more than they have to in taxes. I mean, look at the library ballot question, where it wasn't even going to cost them more.
Right.
But the way the question was written, we talked about this the last time we did our ballot
it's a great point.
Mailbag point, that it was like going to be like 1 cent, and they said no,
Yeah.
no more money.
Right, and that was of money that you're already paying.
Right.
So as you point out here, it's not like people's tax bill was going to go up. And so then going from that to, property tax reform, where most people's property tax bill probably would go up. Not a lot of appetite to that. But, as we report in that story, there is some appetite from even a Republican, Sparks Mayor Ed Lawson, who we reported or interviewed. And I'll put the link in the show notes. But that one seems kind of lofty as well, even though Nathan Anderson and some others, a lot of Democrats have voted for it, say that it's needed and overdue. So third, like kind of expanding on that, right? That's the increases in taxes, cut spending. You talk to conservative Republicans in the state house, and they are wanting to cut spending in the state budget. It's just when you get down to brass tacks with Democrats in charge of the state house. And we already don't have a huge state budget as it is, Chris. I looked this one up. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, Nevada ranks, what would you guess before I tell you, in terms of state government spending per capita?
I'm going to say we're probably like 48th.
Yeah, 49th.
Are we really?
There you go. Yeah, it's like, let's see, $5,690 per capita in terms of government spend. So, only Florida and Texas spend less per capita on their state government than we do. So I just don't think there's a lot of places where you can cut down the state budget, even though some would like to try.
Interestingly, Florida and Texas also non-state income tax states.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then the last one that I'll mention, just because it's a talker, should we have a state lottery? A lot of states have that. Have
California
you lived in a state?
has it.
Yeah, California state lottery. Oregon, if we're talking about West Coast states, a lot of states do have a state lottery. And obviously that would increase some revenue for the state. I don't think it would be the end-all, be-all in terms of this is going to save the Nevada state budget. There was a bill that I believe passed in 2023 and then died in 2025, and lawmakers thought that maybe that wasn't the best way to kind of increase state revenue, but they didn't take any other actions to increase revenue either, whether that be income tax, property tax, you name it.
When it comes to the state lottery in California, initially that was pitched, I believe, to help California schools.
Yeah.
But a lot of critics say not enough of that money flows to the schools. So that's a whole separate issue. How do you police the lottery money? Does it actually go to where it's intended when you open that can of worms with the state lottery?
And some people say too, it kind of takes advantage of maybe like people that are already lower income, and it affects them more. And so, yes, it would generate this revenue, but it might have the kind of this oversized impact on lower income people. And so that's kind of tricky. So I don't know if we'll have we already have so much gambling in the state to add the lottery on top of that. I don't know. I guess that's kind of an underwhelming answer to this person's question, because there's not really a.
I don't mind underwhelming. Everything these days is so overwhelming, Ben. So do you want to talk about?
There's no good answers to fix this problem. On to the next question.
Yeah. So this is the second part of that question from Appropriate Path on Reddit. And the question is, on the federal side, I'm sure all Nevada representatives are pushing for the fair accounting for income realized from betting earnings taxation, Fair Bet Act. But who's willing to do whatever it takes to correct a complete attack on Nevada by Republican Mike Crapo?
Crapo, maybe?
Is it Crapo? I'm sorry. When he introduced the 90% tax allowance limitation on betting losses, which will be law in 2026. So that's coming up thanks to the passing of the big, beautiful bill. If the Fair Act isn't passed, tourism's already off. If you think it's bad, wait until next year. So that's kind of along the lines of what we just talked about as I botched his question, but you understand what he's saying.
Yeah, and so this is a great question because it takes effect, I believe, January 1st of next year. So, a little over 2 months until this happens. So real simply here, I think right now you can deduct your gambling losses up to the amount of your gambling winnings. And so you kind of come out even essentially in the tax game. But if there's a 90% tax allowance limitation, which is in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the deduction is going to be limited to 90% of your losses. So potentially you could come out in the negative, essentially, even if you are even on the day, so to speak. So, this affects the big time gamblers, and I'm not an expert in that scene necessarily, but all of the Nevada delegation has co-sponsored the Fair Bet Act, which I think would just make sure that you could deduct up to 100% of your losses, so you can kind of come out even. But you could see, especially, Chris, you probably know more about this, but the people that are the what do they call them? The high rollers. Thank you. Where if they can only deduct up to 90%, there's just not going to be much of an incentive to come and play here in Nevada or other states.
Well, and then the other big white elephant in the room is all of the online gaming with the younger folks. I think, I know that there are limitations with that in certain states, but that's a huge dynamic. Folks might not even get on an airplane and come to Nevada to gamble if they can gamble from their smartphone.
You can do all of it. Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day. But it's a good question.
All right, let's get to the third question. This is from The Groaner, 1989. I love these Reddit names.
What would your Reddit name be, Chris?
Not The Groaner.
You're not The Groaner?
No.
Okay.
The Complainer, maybe.
That's along the same lines.
The Tired. So here's a question from The Groaner. Hey, is it too late to ask questions? I want to know why Amodei gets a pass for everything he does. He refuses to talk to reporters or his own constituents. And the last time anyone has received correspondence from him was in April, and it was a series of 6 or so AI-written letters. Reporters always ignored this question, and I'm sure you will too. So we're not ignoring it, Ben.
No,
you're talking about so of course we're talking about Representative Mark Amodei, whose jurisdiction covers the Reno area.
Yeah, and all of northern Nevada. So good question from The Groaner. We're not ignoring it. We'll take this one up. I think it's in two parts because you have seen a lot of frustration from constituents that Mark Amodei is not holding town halls, and he hasn't held a public town hall since 2017. And constituents, I was at that town hall with then Senator Dean Heller, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, Chris, actually, where that kind of devolved into a shouting match, and Representative Amodei has told me and others in the past that it's just not a productive form of conversation. Separately and apart from that, though, he does talk to reporters and the press pretty regularly. In the last month, in the course of this government shutdown, we've done one phone press call with him, and then also he was in the studio. So we're in Studio B right now. He was in the other studio, main Studio A week or two ago. Did a 15 or so minute sit down interview with Mark Amodei about the government shutdown, and so people might not like what he has to say when he does those interviews, but on that day specifically, he did the rounds and went to Channel 2, I believe, and Channel 8, and did a number of media interviews. So he's available to us to an extent, less so in terms of these public town halls. And we'll point out to, our senators, Jackie Rosen and Catherine Cortez Masto, to my knowledge, haven't done these big town halls in many years either.
It seems to me they typically only do these during election years, most politicians across the country.
Well, and we've seen, I think in the earlier part of the year, there was a lot of national noise and discussion about, representatives going home for these town halls, and they're just getting screamed at by people. If you're a fan of a certain politician, maybe you're probably not going to the town hall, right? You're going if you really dislike that person and what they stand for. And so it ends up, at least Representative Mark Amodei would say, it ends up being kind of a shouting match. I'll put a link in the show notes because I think I actually talked to him when we had him in this studio on the podcast. And it's another example, several months ago, earlier this year, maybe April or May. And we asked him that very question. So you can hear it in his words as opposed to me paraphrasing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the other issue, and you and I have talked about this off camera and on, is that you'd like to see our governor come on your podcast here, Ballot Battleground Nevada, because you've had Jackie Rosen and you've had Catherine Cortez Masto, are both our U.S. senators. How about Aaron Ford? Has he been on?
So it's a good question, and I'll tease to our, coverage of the midterms starting in January of 2026. That's when we're going to bring in Aaron Ford, Alexis Hill, hopefully Governor Joe Lombardo, all of the candidates running for those major statewide offices. But yeah, you're right, Governor Lombardo being the one statewide politician really that we've tried to get on the podcast that hasn't. So people that are frustrated with Mark Amodei, to his credit, he does make himself available routinely. The same cannot be said for the governor.
And I also should mention that Cisco Aguilar, Secretary of State, has come into the studio and done this as well.
Yeah.
Is there anyone I've forgotten?
No, I think you hit all the big ones. Yeah.
I mean, you even had Miguel Cardona, the former education secretary under Joe Biden, in to talk.
Yeah.
So, well, 100%. Come on, Governor. Ben's a good
spot.
Guy. Yeah. He'll ask good, strong questions.
I'm a fair
but
journalist.
They're fair. Yeah. You really are. You really are. And you're very impartial, which is awesome. Okay, here's a newsroom question.
I forget who actually asked this one. But
yes.
It's floating around the newsroom.
How much is a special session per day?
Yeah. And it looks like we're going to have a special session next month is kind of what I'm hearing, sometime in November.
Which happens from time to time. We have a lot of special sessions.
So many. Yeah, we've talked about this on the morning show, but 5 or 6 since the start of the 2020s, I think more than we've had, regular sessions in that time period. And so they are costly. Obviously, there is an expense to call the lawmakers back to Carson City. We looked into this, and I'll give credit actually to the RGJ and their reporter, Mark Robeson, who did look into this. And the estimates kind of vary, but a couple of different people settled on around $100,000 per day for the special session. So some of these are, we had one special session that was only a few hours long. We've had some that have stretched for several days, but, a 5-day special session, about $500,000. Wow. That's an expense. It's a drop in the bucket when you talk about the full state of Nevada budget for the biennium, but it is certainly an expense.
Yeah.
And when you think about, I always kind of like to put it in perspective. Yes, it is a cost, but compared to the money saved by, we're only meeting 120 days every other year.
There you go.
So there is so much cost savings.
That's good perspective, big picture.
Whereas because they're not meeting year round. And so to have 5 or 6 days, a couple of times in the long run, in the end, it is a far cheaper way to run a state government.
Yeah.
People can disagree about whether or not they think it's a good way to run a state government. But
nonetheless, it is how we do it here.
Yeah.
All right, to the 5th question. This is from Seth Dalab on Reddit saying, and I'm sure I messed up that username, with the failure of the open primary ballot initiative last year, is there any hope of recruiting politicians that are incentivized to compromise and moderate rather than worry about their next primary?
Yeah. Been a huge topic on this podcast because we did the official trademarked, question 3 debate here that we had and dropped that debate in the feed here. And real quickly, that was not only the open primaries, but the ranked choice voting. It passed in 2022, failed in the 2024 election. But, for Seth Dalab, I think if we're saying that right, it's coming back in a scaled down sense from the Vote Nevada PAC. So instead of the combined effort with the ranked choice voting, they're doing open primaries alone. And so Sandra Cosgrove, who I've interviewed, I think she's been on this podcast before, is organizing to get this initiative petition and add it to the Constitution. It would need to pass twice to do that. But essentially, you would not have to update your party affiliation to participate in a primary. The political parties themselves could have their own private primaries if they so choose, like we saw with the presidential contest last year on the Republican side, or the parties could just allow their voters to participate in the publicly funded primary election. So it's essentially open primaries for all intents and purposes. And if they get enough signatures, that would be on the 2026 ballot.
Okay.
So we'll see, but it's been delayed and pushed back now after it failed last year.
So much of this is we'll see.
Yeah, right.
Let's see what question number 6 is. It comes from 1998 Monday on Reddit saying, who is John Doe? Why haven't we heard any updates on that. What's this case they're referring to, the John Doe case?
Yeah, this is the person that hired a private investigator here in the Reno area named David McNeely to track Reno Mayor Hillary Sheevy and then Washoe County Commissioner Von Hartung leading up to the time around the 2022 general election that fall.
Surreptitiously put tracking devices on each of their vehicles.
Yeah, and they believe from the civil lawsuit that Mayor Sheevy filed, they believe that the private investigator came onto their private property to install the GPS trackers. They were later discovered by a car mechanic. And, we could talk for 20 minutes about all the cases and the appeals and this and that. But the person that hired the PI, private investigator, appealed this case all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Wow.
And it was either at the end of September or just this month that the Supreme Court, said they're not taking up this case. So in theory, it gets, sent back down to the Second Judicial District Court here in Washoe County. The judge has already ruled that the John Doe, the person that hired the PI, must be revealed. And so I just checked today, though, Chris, and there needs to be like an order or a legal document filed with the court saying, hey, the Supreme Court's not taking up the case, and they would ask the judge to reinstate his order requiring the release of this name. That hasn't happened yet, so I need to put in a call to Mayor Sheevy's attorney and just get an update on that. But as far as we know from talking to other attorneys kind of in this space that have followed this, there's no other appeals. There's no other place that this John Doe can go. And so they believe that this person will be finally revealed after, going on 3 years now.
Wow. It's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary stuff, too, to be tracked without your knowing.
And they now passed, a bill since then saying that you can't do this because it wasn't actually against the law back then.
And sometimes the law just needs to catch up with technology.
Right.
So this is a case of that for sure.
100%. Okay, I got to ask you this one because this is our second to last question here.
Okay.
From Chucker on Facebook, who said, and I don't know if this person deleted their comment or what, but it's gone from Facebook. But she sent me a screenshot. This question was asked, why doesn't Chris get rid of his cat if he's so allergic to it?
Okay.
And because I think this has been, maybe fill me in here, a recurring topic on ARC. Maybe
we got a message,
which is our morning show.
Mariana, yeah. So we do 2 hours of NBC together.
Yep.
Then we do 1 hour Fox, and then we continue for 2 more hours on
on ARC.
ARC. I'm gonna tell I'm tired.
Yeah.
Of ARC on Fox. So anyway, it's like 5 straight hours, and once in a while I have to cough, and so both Reno and Mariana were like, "You're gonna get sick." I said, "No, it's allergies." Well, what do you mean allergies? Well, my living girlfriend and I got a cat, and she is so in love with this cat. She got him from the SPCA.
Yeah,
up
rescue
there,
cat. Yep.
Off Par Boulevard.
See, there we go. Yeah.
On cue.
What's the cat's name?
It's Ziggy because it was guitar, but we renamed it. I would think of a rock star. So Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. So Ziggy. So yeah, I'm getting over this allergy, I hope. I don't know if there's any cure to it.
Yeah.
Well, I actually went on a steroid for a little bit. It fixed it. You can hear me wheezing.
See? Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when you're in love with someone and you have a living girlfriend.
I'm
absolutely. Listen, Ben.
You're kind of a softie, huh?
I'm a softie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not killing me.
No.
But once in a while I get a little,
sure,
stuffed up.
Yeah. To a lesser extent, this is me with my in-laws' animals because they have a farm.
Oh, I thought you were going to just say your in-laws.
No. We don't live with them because they have, horses and donkeys. And if I am not hopped up on allergy meds before we go out there, I will die. And it's a sacrifice that we're willing to make. So I just got to make sure that I take all my allergy meds before we see them.
You know what's funny? I've never had a cat before.
Yeah.
And cats are actually a lot of fun.
They are.
You don't have to walk them.
Yeah.
You can leave them all day and they're fine on their own. They're like, cool. I like my alone
this
time.
Is great.
The cats are great. And you come home and they're like, oh, you're home? I'm just in the middle of a nap. You should please hold it down. Whereas dogs are all over you, jumping up and down.
There's attention.
Yeah. So I always thought I was a dog person. So if I can just deal with this allergy, I'm good.
Sure.
I love it.
Well, speaking of cat people.
Yes.
Our next questioner is a cat person herself.
Oh, so Tabitha?
Yeah. Tabitha Mueller from the Nevada Independent.
Like a tabby cat.
Former guest. Maybe that's why. Maybe her parents actually need to ask her that.
So the question is cereal soup Is this serious?
This is, yeah, what do you mean? This is the most serious question of the day. Is cereal soup? I want your thoughts first.
No, absolutely
Why
not.
Soup is just food that is suspended in a liquid.
Yeah, but I mean, Andy Warhol didn't do the Campbell's soup cans and call them cereal cans.
But why not? Define soup
Ask
so
Andy
that it
Warhol. Wait,
excludes
Andy's
cereal.
gone. He's no longer with us. I don't know why. Why would? What a silly question. What do you mean is cereal
This is an important
soup?
debate.
No, it's a breakfast product.
It's
Soup.
a
you
breakfast.
You don't eat soup for
It's
breakfast.
a breakfast
do you?
soup. It's just a How is it not?
I don't know.
If you look up the definition of a soup, let's
what
find
does it
out.
say? Have you
Actually,
looked into
let's
this?
see.
Hey, I made homemade carrot soup last night. It turned out so good.
Then you didn't put Wheaties in it?
No one is eating that soup for breakfast. Carrot soup.
Okay, hold up. This is making for a really good podcast right here.
This is
Define
ridiculous.
soup. If I was a good journalist, I would have done this before. A liquid dish.
Right.
Okay, my argument's going to fall apart. Typically made by boiling meat, fish, or vegetables in stock or water.
Right. So Tabitha,
Google Gemini would say no.
No.
Yeah.
Is cereal soup? No.
What's your favorite soup this time of year, though?
I mean, how do you beat? I love to,
And it's
I love to
not
cook, so I make
Frosted
stuff at
Flakes.
home. No, tomato soup and homemade grilled cheese,
Yeah.
done perfectly.
Can't beat it.
Come on,
Yeah.
it's the best.
Cozy winter day, you got your
Yes.
tomato soup and grilled
Getting ready
cheese.
for the Eagles game.
Yeah.
Yes,
That sounds bomb.
Well, I'm glad we dug into some really deep issues here.
Super deep issues.
Yes, I love it. I
absolutely.
love that you saved the best for last.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone who submitted those wonderful questions.
What?
I feel like there's more to the cereal soup debate. We'll get into it next time. How about
No,
that?
we're done
It's
with
a
that.
tease. No, we're done.
No, one and done on that.
We'll let you get to making your tomato soup and recovering from your allergies, Chris. But thank you so
I
much.
may always be afflicted with this.
You may for the rest
I'm
of your
sorry
life,
I'm
but
so
that is the
hideous
path
now.
that you have chosen.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, Chris. We appreciate it.
It's so much fun, always.
Yeah, it's
so
a
we'll
blast.
see you what? We do this like
Yeah,
quarterly-ish?
we'll do it, so we'll go on hiatus, announcement for the listeners here probably over the Christmas holiday and then, maybe come back in sometime in January.
Sure.
It'll be an election year. We'll
yeah.
have more podcasts next year for sure. Don't know exactly what that will look like.
You're doing such a good job with this podcast.
But thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Keep up the good work on the morning show. Go watch
Yes.
Chris every morning if you don't already.
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm going to go take a Zyrtec.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. If you made it to the end of this episode, I really appreciate it. If you have guest ideas, episode ideas, questions, comments, compliments, concerns, mailbag questions for the next one, anything at all, I want to hear from you. Send me an email, bjmargiott@sbgtv.com, and put Ballot Battleground Nevada in the subject line. If you have a moment, I'd really appreciate it if you left a rating and a review. That helps the podcast show up higher in searches so more people can discover the show. Thanks for listening.